Welcome back to another Game Time Discussions. I'm Emery Cuzzy. I'm sitting here with Cameron Selby, and we've been doing a lot of videos for this weekend. We're going to be doing this video. This is a breakdown of the Sunday games. We're going to do both of the showdown slates between the Rams and Eagles, and then also the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills, the game I am by far most looking forward to on the weekend because that is going to just be the best game. So kind of talking about it, though, we did also do a breakdown for the main slate, which is all 4 games, and then we did both of the Saturday games already, so those games are out if you haven't seen them yet, or if they haven't been played yet, you should go watch those to make sure that you can get in your own lineups for those games. But
yeah, and then again, when we broke down the first one, not really much weather impacting either game, so it wasn't that big of a deal, kind of a moot point. On the Sunday, because the cold fronts are coming in and all that good stuff, it's worth noting that the weather could definitely impact this slate. So,
right.
It is a wait and see. We are still recording this on Wednesday, but the Philly game, upper 30s, light breeze, but could be some showers depending on just what directions these winds are going and what have you. And then the Baltimore-Buffalo game, which is a big deal because it's a 51-point total right now. Supposed to be the worst cold weather game of the weekend. It's already right now projecting to be in the teens during the game time. On top of that, there could be some high winds, possible rain/snow.
Right.
So really have to take a look at that. Maybe bet the under if you have it right now. I know when we did our breakdowns, we'll talk about scores and what have you as well. But just keep those things in mind as you're doing builds.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's get into the first game of the day. I don't know what time it's at. Is it 3? Is it a 1 o'clock game or 2 o'clock game?
Central time.
Okay. So we'll be hopping into this game here. The Eagles and the Rams. The Rams are the underdogs by 6.5, and they are. What's the total on this game?
It's a 44-point total.
44-point total. Okay. So talking about the Rams side of it, we're going to talk about the receivers first. You have to have Puka Nacua as your number 1 guy.
He's really the only
Cooper
Kupp
guy
that's getting consistent workload.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how their offense works. It's so weird. I mean, you can even come down here and get Parkinson, Tutu Atwell, Davis Allen, Hunter Long had a catch. Like, everybody down here, but
here's
it's
the
just
thing.
gross.
Tutu played 1 snap last week.
Yeah.
Tyler Johnson was an inactive.
He was out.
Cooper Kupp, he only played 55% of the snaps, but it was a blowout. But he's been getting less than 3 targets a game for the last month or so, and it's been really hard to trust. At least his price is going down to where you can consider him at least.
Right.
But it's tough to get to. Demarcus Robinson,
cardio.
At least 70% of the snaps, but he's getting cardio essentially. The biggest thing is Tyler Higbee and his status because and we brought this down in the main slate. All that's in first quarter. 5 for 58 on 5 targets, 10.8 fantasy points, and then he went out with a chest injury. He was essentially coughing up blood and had to go to the hospital to get checked out. Sounds like he's good to go and won't really be limited in any way. So I'm not really concerned if he is active in playing I don't know if I can spend up for him. I think you can in a game like this because they just have made a huge priority over the last 2 weeks to make sure that he's involved.
Right, exactly. And talking about, this kind of team, the guys that are getting targets, it's literally just like 4 guys. And Kyron can be included because he's getting more targets than actually anybody not in the top 3. So I think he's probably getting more targets than Cooper also. I mean, he only needs 4.
I mean, yeah, he hasn't been known as a pass catcher, but
the same amount, I guess.
Yeah, he essentially Blake Corum, who has not really been eaten into touches all year. We called that at the very beginning of the year. Is out for the year, and so we were like, Kyron's going to lead the way.
Right.
Well, I said that he might play 95% of the snaps when we were just texting off screen when we were prepping for the showdown, and he hit 87%, but a lot of it had to do with a lot of the second half they didn't have the ball, and on top of that they were up by so much that Ronnie Rivers, here's 7 snaps. Do something with those 3 carries that you're going to have. Kyron, as safe as they come, you see the floor that he has, basically 16 points every week. So him being only under $10,000 is honestly a pretty solid bargain.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to – and you are I don't think that this slate is that hard to play because everybody's pretty reasonably priced. If you watched our other video, this is more like the Kansas City slate where Kansas City and Houston, they had, their highest guys are in the 10,000s. Philly, on the other hand, is two guys that are a little bit more expensive. But if you just look at like the LA side of it, you're comfortable getting to them, especially if you're picking them to win. So we'll have to get into that in a minute. But Kyren is the only running back that we're going to talk about. We just talked about him. Cooper Kupp, 3 targets a game for the last few weeks. Not sure what to do with him, but why not? Tournament, huge tournament play, I guess. And then, like we said, Tyler Higbee. So pretty easy side. Matthew Stafford's. I know you have a stat about Matthew Stafford that you probably want to bring up real quick.
Basically, and I wrote this down when we did our main slate breakdown. But in 6 games as a Ram in the playoffs, he's averaging over 24 fantasy points per game. His worst game was last week against the Minnesota Vikings, and he was playing so well so early that it didn't matter in the second half. Like I said, they barely had the ball, and they didn't need him. He also doesn't have rushing upside, so he's a multi-touchdown kind of guy. And so if he isn't flirting with that 300-yard threshold, which he's basically averaging 300 passing yards a game in his career in the playoffs, which is one of the most all-time. Problem is sometimes he doesn't hit a floor. You see the 3 games prior to that when it was just low-scoring games, 8 points, 7 points, 9 points. Can't really fit him in with this stat, but it just kind of depends on how you see the game script going. But them being a 6-point dog, even if you're not on the side of an upset in this game, that means they're playing from behind. And last time they did play Philly, they're the number 1 defense in football and hard to throw on, and yet he still had 18 fantasy points. I think he hit the 300-yard bonus week 12.
Too far. 243.
Yeah.
Against Philly. So
243, 2 touchdowns.
But he had a rushing touchdown.
Had a rushing touchdown as well. That kind of helped save his day. But 19 fantasy points. So if he can get you over 15, that's kind of what it really comes down to. I think with a lot of builds, it's going to basically be a Stafford versus Kyren.
Yeah.
If you're going to try to afford some of the expensive Philly guys.
I was a liar. He did not have a rushing touchdown. That was a rushing attempt. That's good. Because I didn't expect him to. I was like, really? That's surprising. But yeah, he has had a rushing touchdown all year. Let's go over though and talk about the other side of the ball because it's a little bit more interesting. You have, of course, some of these guys up top, 3 guys above 10,000. Let's get into the wide receiver side of it. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard. I guess Jahan Dotson, sure. But let's look at the Jalen Hurts game log real quick because this is really what tells the story on these pass catchers. He has the floor of throwing the ball 21 times. He has 19 times. That's just not going to get it done for your pass catchers. 14 freaking times. I'm not confident that I don't know how many times he'll throw the ball in this game. Probably around 25, right?
Yeah. He's probably one of the most frustrating fantasy players to fade if you don't like him because of the fact that he could suck or not have production at all, but just get tush pushed in 1 or 2 times and just return value. We've seen multiple games this year. I know he's had a 3 rushing touchdown game before, but he had a stretch of I think 5 straight games with a rushing touchdown. Or he had 5 rushing touchdowns. Oh yeah.
Don't worry, there's more.
There is a 3 touchdown game in there, but you see the rushing touchdowns that he vultures from Saquon, so he doesn't need a bunch of passing attempts to get there.
Right.
Which is tough when it's man, you're not playing well. And last week he had 35 passing yards going late into the 3rd quarter.
Yep.
He had 2 touchdowns, which one was because they fumbled. Green Bay fumbled the kickoff, and they scored on the first drive. He didn't do anything the rest of the way, and then Goddard had an amazing play.
Yeah,
to score, and that was all she wrote for Jalen Hurts. So, is he going to be tush pushed in? Probably. I mean, I bet you he's even or a goblin to score a rushing touchdown. But just he's going to make a lot of things tougher to fit if you did go that route and then also stacked him with one of the 2 guys.
Yeah, and the first guy you guys talk about is AJ Brown. AJ Brown has been good when honestly, he's been good for his opportunities and everything like that. The problem is he just doesn't have that many opportunities because they're not throwing the ball enough. I'd love to. There we go. 15 opportunities against Washington, 11 against Pittsburgh. He is the main guy.
I don't care how much you're up. Your wide receiver 1 that you're paying $30 million a year should never have only 3 targets in a playoff game. I don't care how ugly it is. Jair Alexander was out. You got 2 fantasy points. That has nothing to do with him. It's just the way they use him, and it's frustrating when you try to invest in a Philly pass catcher, Devontae Smith is also a very talented guy, and he's $2,000 cheaper. A lot easier to organically fit in stuff. But he also has the floors. He started kind of raising it up a little bit. He's had going into the postseason, had 4 touchdowns in the final 4 games of the year. But then he has just only 4 targets. He catches all 4, but 9 fantasy points. That's not going to return value at $8,000
right.
on a showdown slate. So basically, how do you expect Philly to go off? The biggest thing is knowing that Goddard's back. Which another kind of similar to what we just said about Tyler Higbee. They really wanted to get him involved when he came back from IR late in the season. He played the final week just like Tyler Higbee did while others rested, and he had some production. And then in the playoff game, tied for the team lead in targets, caught the touchdown, and being 5,800, pretty reasonable price to organically make things work.
Yeah. Jahan Dotson, sure, he had the touchdown last week.
His first career Philly touchdown.
Why not?
It took him 19 weeks.
He had 11 targets in Week 18 because he was the only guy on the field. But not the point. Let's take these off. Let's talk about Saquon because really it's Saquon at 11-2 or bust.
Yeah.
He's got 4 out of 5 of the last, of his last games. Got 100+ yards. He's got multiple touchdowns, 15 touchdowns on the year. He hasn't scored recently, so positive regression.
Got 2 touchdowns in 5 games. Those touchdowns both came in the same game, so he's due. But also, the time he last played against the Rams was a showdown slate that he went for 49 fantasy points, 300 all-purpose yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he 10 yards a touch. The thing is, I just hope he doesn't get vultured, but he's in a smash spot once again. The Rams have been playing much better defensively, so it's not just like you just plug him in and play, at least on the main slate. I don't know if you can get away from him on this one, but yeah, he's just been as good as advertised this year.
I think it's impossible to get away from him, but that's just me in general. So we'll just have to talk about that here in a second, but I am going to give it away and talk about, we're going to talk about our game script, but our must plays, obviously. Saquon Barkley was my must play.
Puka's mine.
Puka's yours. Both of those guys are going in all my lines anyways. So
that basically easily makes your decision for how you're building if you play both of them.
Yeah.
Really up top, there's only 3 guys that are 10,000 and above. But fading 2 of them, I'm sorry, there's 4 guys, but picking 2 of them basically means you can't really get to the 3rd guy unless you go really, really cheap.
Right.
And there's really nobody down low that you can confidently plug in. Like Jordan Whittington got some snaps last week. He got 11, but it was also a blowout. So probably most of them came later, and at the expense of Cooper Kupp being only at 55%, which he's been above. What is that? His lowest snap total was 71% since he returned from IR, other than the Week 8 game, his first game back. So, not confident playing him. Everybody in the 2,000 to 3,000 range, gross.
Yeah.
Jahan Dotson, sure, you caught a touchdown, good for you.
So gross.
I'm not playing DeMarcus Robinson for 4,000. It's all tough. I mean, the highest valued player that is not minimum price that just is projecting for half a point is Saquon Barkley. That's the highest value on the slate. And then after that, it's Jalen Hurts. After that, it's a kicker. So basically, there's no value once again. I kind of treat this similar to how we did the Philly-Minnesota game, which that was kind of another decision of, hey, it's a high point total. Do you want to go a 5 and eat a 0 or a really low score? Or do you want to build a more balanced build? And I ended up going last guy in, going with the Rams D. Smashed, obviously going for 23 fantasy points. It just depends on if this is a game where you think it's more balanced. And if it is, there's certain spots you can kind of make you feel pretty solid with the line.
Yeah. Okay, well, my fade is going to be Jalen Hurts. You got to pick some way to fade, and that's the guy I can't get to.
Yeah, I don't fault you for that one whatsoever.
Your fade?
It's just tough. Cooper Kupp is my fade. I can't pay $7,400 for somebody getting 3 targets a game.
So sad, man.
That said, he's talented enough to, if they're playing from behind, all of a sudden jump back into a 10-plus target workload.
Why not?
He's going to be low owned if you do that. But the way that I'm building on this slate, it's really hard in that range to get there.
For sure. And then my contrarian play, is Devontae Smith because you took my other contrarian play in the
Hey,
Rams.
we can do the same.
Rams defense.
I'm running it back one more time. Again, that's what helped went over 5x of my investment on the Showdown, just getting crazy production.
Yeah.
4 straight games, they've allowed less than 10 points, not fantasy points, 10 points, which I know 2 of those teams were non-playoff teams. It doesn't matter when it's the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really hard to one time allow less than 10 points. Obviously, the Week 18 game, they were resting. That I'm not counting that one. But the other ones, basically knocking San Fran out of the playoffs in a 12-6 game. The Jets were on the road. That was a game where they had nothing to play for, but they had been playing at least better offensively.
Right.
And then Arizona, must-win game for them, knocked them out of the playoffs. And then obviously a 14-win team where they were a home neutral site dog. They ended up still shutting out Minnesota essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I can't get away from them if they're only 3,600.
All right. Well, let's build some lines.
All right.
I'm going to let you go first. I wonder if we have the same line, honestly, because
Do you got 200 remainder?
I do. So I'm expecting us
Is
to have the
Puka
same.
your captain?
He is.
All right, we have the same line.
All right.
Yeah, Puka is my captain. I'm also playing Stafford to pair him. And then I'm going to plug in Saquon. I am going to plug in both tight ends in Dallas Goedert and Tyler Higbee. And last person in is a team, and it is the Los Angeles Rams.
So we have the same line, which makes me feel great.
Yeah. Again, we don't talk lines before we get on shows like this.
Wait, we didn't do our game script.
We didn't.
We didn't tell these people.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't tell them. We have to tell these people about our game script.
We're both on the Rams.
Yeah.
Picking them outright. They're a 6-point dog. It doesn't matter. One coming off a dominant win. The other one really struggling against a banged-up Green Bay team. And they basically won because of field position more so than them earning the win and keeping it. So the Rams are just playing much better in recent weeks, and I think they're the hotter team. We even said before when we did our postseason predictions that if the Rams were to have to play Philly instead because of a Washington upset, which ended up happening, we would both pick the Eagles, and neither of us are swayed from that right now.
We both picked the Rams, yes. You said Eagles, but yes. I agree with you. Yeah, it's just I think the Rams are the hardest team to get out as like a non-dominant team. Because, of course, if you look at the AFC, you have KC, you have Baltimore, you have Buffalo. Those teams are hard to get out.
Yep.
But I'm not as confident in Houston being able to make an upset. And then in the NFC, I'm really not confident in anybody making an upset except for the Rams. I could see them upsetting everybody. Yep. It's one of those things. So I'm definitely on that side. We talked about this before, and on this slate, it's a raw point slate in my personal opinion. You had it 2017. That's a 37-point total. It's very low. I had it 24-20. That's 44 points. So yeah,
I think this is a matchup where both defenses show up, and you're just gonna get some raw points, and whoever is able to score whatever touchdowns are available. That said, it could be a great kicker slate if the wind holds up, and it's just like we both get to the red zone but can't punch it in.
Exactly.
I think is it John Carty?
Yes.
The Rams kicker. He's had multiple games with 3+ field goals and stuff, and last week I don't know if I would have got first, but I would have gotten top 5 of all Showdown and thousands of people.
Josh Carty. Yeah.
Yeah. I picked the wrong kicker. I didn't want to go a 5-1 build in favor of the Rams. Should have though. So Reichard also had 10 fantasy points a game and upside like that, but they were down so much so early that they were like, no, we're going for 2. We're not even kicking the extra point.
It's like, all right, cool.
Cool.
Yep.
But yeah, so
he was my captain in one of my lines. In one of them, yeah. So,
yeah,
but at the same time, I wasn't that worried because we did have so much Rams anyways, so it worked out. But yeah, he was my captain on one of my lines, so that line was a dud, unfortunately. But yeah, so this is my first build. Is there another way you want to build this? Because we did the same thing, and I mean, we're on the same page exactly. So,
do you have a single guy below 4,000 that you even want to flirt with putting in a line?
It was Jordan Whittington.
Whittington? Okay, well, let's do a build with the $1,200 Jordan Whittington.
Okay.
Were you also wanting to put Ramsey in this one?
No, let's not.
Okay. So this is a higher scoring game. Do you still want an expensive captain?
one of Saquon or Puka's.
That's my
kind
only
of
captain
the only way I'm going. So I think that's where I want to be, but I don't care which one. We can try both.
Let's say Saquon on this
We
one.
can try both. I'm gonna put Puka in every line.
Yeah, can't get away from him.
I'm probably gonna put Stafford with him.
Okay.
62. I mean, you could go kicker and what does Devontae Smith get you? 44 is tight end. All right, perfect.
Perfect.
No, all right. Didn't even have to work that hard on that one. And I'm still on the same side. As you can see, we're playing the Rams as we want to. Let's do it again. Let's put Puka up here, and let's see who we can swap.
It's another $600.
Yeah. 400. Okay. Which would be kicker?
That would be kicker instead of Higbee. Is that Cardi?
Yeah.
It's fine.
So, yeah, you could do that.
If you went down
go away from Devontae.
Go down to nobody else is exactly 9,000, right? It's just you're all the way up or all the way down.
Yeah.
Kyron.
Oh yeah, let's try to get Kyron in there.
Okay. We'll put Kyron.
That makes it tough.
Don't have enough for the Rams D, unfortunately.
32. So Kobe Parkinson is who I'd rather get to. Kenneth Gainwell randomly goes in the game.
Yeah, he's had some snaps.
Yeah.
The only other thought is going even lower down at captain. Okay. Again, I'd rather not do that, but
yeah, I agree.
If you did go to either Kyron or Stafford, that would be enough for Rams D.
Okay. If we're going to play this, I think the correlation with Kyron makes more sense. Okay. So let's do that, but I'm not happy about it, just to let you know.
This is probably, I don't know if we're going to play another line since we just went 6 for 6, the exact same.
Yeah.
But fair. We're just giving other looks for guys. But yeah, that organically fits. Usually it's always good to, correlate a defense with the running back. And Kyron, I think, is the one that'll get squeezed, and he's the cheapest guy. Ownership, again, RotoWire is kind of wonky with their Showdown ownerships. But right now, he is lower owned than every single guy priced above him, and he's even below both kickers right now. Which I don't anticipate that being a thing, but I bet you it'll be in the low 30s, which good solid leverage. That's exactly where he was this past week when the one decision that we were making in the Rams-Vikings game was you wanted to go up to Justin, and I was like, I'm going to just trust the Kyron floor.
Yeah.
I ended up being on the right side of things, but you've also had a lot of
Justin didn't play bad though. I mean, it was he just didn't score a touchdown. Kyron got that early touchdown on the pass, and I was like, okay,
touchdown was
super helpful. But yeah, I think we're pretty much on the same exact page. So I'm good on this slate, and we will get on out of here. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. This video will be broken up into both slates, so I know you're actually at the end of this. So if you're like, well, I meant to watch the Philly game and only saw this one game, it's on a different video. We broke it into 2. We also have a full video if you want to watch the whole thing. So just watch whatever you want. We're going to have a whole bunch of stuff, and then we'll get into, we also have a main slate, so watch that too.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Please do all the things and watch all these contests. Again, we like to play everything. We sprinkle all around, and we hand build. For the time being, we don't have an optimizer. We will one day be able to provide that as an add-on and interact that way. And that's going to completely change and reshape how we do these kinds of videos, because we'll be talking more so about exposures than we will about hand building and what have you. And we won't be posting lines. We'll just be posting either exposures or leans or stands that we do, because we like to take stands more than others. We don't just like, hey, I'm going to be underweight, but I'm still going to be 30% to this guy.
If you've watched this show, I will take 0% of the chalkiest running back, and I do not care.
A lot of the time.
Not care.
Yeah, we talked about last week where Bucky Irving was the chalk of the chalk, and he was over 50% owned, and we were like, there's too many good running backs to be 50% owned, so we faded him, and he did okay, but he didn't do enough. So all those things we think about, but again, we're closing out our first year doing this, and it's been a whole lot of fun doing, and we're just excited for the off-season content. Obviously, national championship is this weekend or this Monday, and we have a divisional round of football. It's the peak football season, and then once it's done, we're gonna be going right into draft content, reviewing how we did this past year, and then what's to come. free agency, all that stuff. We're going to cover it all, and then we're going to try to do some entertaining ones as well.
Absolutely. So we really appreciate y'all hanging out, and stay tuned because we got a lot going on, and we appreciate y'all just being part of the community, helping us build it. We're slowly, we're getting bigger, so
Yes,
it's
sir.
very exciting. So we will see you on the next one.